Imagine you are the captain of a massive ship. You are sailing from one side of the ocean to the other. If you adjust the ship's course by just 1 or 2 degrees, the change is almost unnoticeable at first. You might not even feel the shift from the captain's deck. The bow of the ship moves only a tiny fraction. But over the vast expanse of the ocean, this small adjustment compounds. After weeks at sea, that 1 degree change will land you in a completely different country. Your life works in the same way. A small, seemingly insignificant choice today can steer you toward a dramatically different destination in the future. This is the core idea behind atomic habits. A habit is simply a behavior that has been repeated enough times to become automatic. It is a choice you once made deliberately, but now you perform it without much thought. Think about brushing your teeth in the morning or tying your shoelaces. You don't need a manual or a burst of motivation to do them. They are ingrained in your daily routine. These small actions, repeated over and over, define who you are. The quality of our lives often depends on the quality of our habits. What we repeatedly do each day ultimately forms the person we become and the life we live. Consider the story of a friend who wanted to become a writer. At first, the idea of writing a book was overwhelming. He felt stuck. So instead of trying to write for hours, he decided to start with a tiny habit. He would write just 1 sentence each day. It seemed almost laughably small, but he did it. 1 sentence turned into a paragraph. A paragraph turned into a page. The small, consistent action built momentum. A year later, he had a finished manuscript. His success wasn't the result of a single burst of effort, but the accumulation of hundreds of small, daily deposits of work. This is why small habits matter so much. We often convince ourselves that massive success requires massive action. We look for the one big break or the revolutionary change that will transform everything at once. But the truth is, real change comes from the compound effect of hundreds of small decisions. It is the daily practice of showing up. Improving by just 1% isn't noticeable, but it can be far more meaningful in the long run. It is the tiny shift in your course that over time leads you to a new and better destination. Your habits are the rudder of your ship. Every habit you have, whether good or bad, follows the same 4-step pattern. This pattern is called the habit loop, and it operates continuously in the background of our lives. The 4 steps are cue, craving, response, and reward. Understanding this framework is the key to building good habits and breaking bad ones. The cue is the trigger that tells your brain to initiate a behavior. It is a bit of information that predicts a reward. It could be a time of day, a location, a sound, or an emotion. Your brain is constantly scanning the environment for these cues. Once a cue is identified, the craving follows. The craving is the motivational force behind every habit. You don't crave the action itself, but the change in state it delivers. You don't crave turning on the television, you crave the feeling of being entertained or distracted. You don't crave smoking a cigarette, you crave the feeling of relief from stress. Every craving is linked to a desire to change your internal state. It's the anticipation of the reward that drives us to act. Without a craving, we have no reason to move forward with the habit. The 3rd step is the response, which is the actual habit you perform. The response can be a thought or an action. Whether you perform the response depends on how motivated you are and how much friction is associated with the behavior. If an action requires more physical or mental effort than you are willing to expend, you won't do it. Your habits are shaped by the path of least resistance. This is why making good habits easy and bad habits difficult is such an effective strategy for change. The response is the part where you actually deliver on the craving. Finally, the response delivers a reward. The reward is the end goal of every habit. The cue is about noticing the reward. The craving is about wanting the reward, and the response is about obtaining the reward. We chase rewards for 2 reasons. They satisfy us and they teach us. A reward provides a feeling of satisfaction and closes the habit loop. It also teaches our brain which actions are worth remembering in the future. If a behavior is unsatisfying, you have no reason to repeat it. The brain is a reward detector, constantly searching for actions that bring pleasure and relief. To understand how our brains learn to repeat certain behaviors, We can look back at an experiment conducted by a psychologist named Edward Thorndike in the late 1890s. Thorndike placed cats inside what he called puzzle boxes. The cats were trapped, but there was a way to escape, such as by pulling a lever or stepping on a plate. Outside the box, Thorndike placed a bowl of food. The cats naturally wanted to escape to get the food. At first, each cat would thrash around randomly, sniffing corners and clawing at the walls, until it accidentally triggered the escape mechanism. Once the door opened, the cat could get its reward: the food. Thorndike repeated the experiment, placing the same cat back in the box again and again. He noticed a fascinating change. Over many trials, the cats learned to associate a specific action with the reward of escaping. They stopped their random behaviours and went straight for the lever or plate. They had learned which action led to a satisfying consequence. The random, useless actions faded away, and the successful action became more frequent and automatic. The cats had formed a habit. This process led Thorndike to formulate what he called the law of effect. It states that behaviours followed by satisfying consequences tend to be repeated, while behaviours followed by unsatisfying consequences are less likely to be repeated. This simple law is the foundation of all habit formation. Our brains are wired to repeat actions that feel good. Every time you experience a satisfying reward, your brain releases dopamine, a neurotransmitter that plays a huge role in motivation and learning. This dopamine spike essentially tells your brain, "That felt good. Do it again next time." This is precisely how a habit like smoking becomes so deeply ingrained. The cue might be the end of a stressful meeting at work. The craving is the need to feel calm and relieved. The response is smoking a cigarette. The reward is the nicotine hitting the brain, which temporarily reduces stress and satisfies the craving. Each time this loop is completed, the connection between the cue and the response gets stronger. The brain learns that smoking is a quick and reliable way to solve the problem of stress. Over time, the urge becomes automatic and difficult to resist. When we decide we want to change, our first instinct is often to aim for something monumental. We declare that we will lose 30 pounds, run a marathon, or learn a new language. While these goals are admirable, they can also be intimidating. The sheer size of the goal can create so much pressure that we fail to even start. Or we make a huge effort for a few days, burn out, and then quit when we don't see immediate dramatic results. The key to lasting change is not to focus on the massive goal, but to focus on the small, daily system that will get you there. The most effective way to build a new habit is to start with an action that is so small it seems easy. Do you want to read more? Don't commit to a chapter a day. Instead, read one page. Do you want to exercise? Don't force yourself to go to the gym for an hour. Instead, do one push-up. The idea is to make the starting ritual so simple that you can't say no. This approach, which I call the 2-minute rule, helps you master the art of showing up. A habit must be established before it can be improved. You have to standardize before you can optimize. Consistency is far more important than intensity, especially at the beginning. You are not trying to achieve a particular performance goal in the first few weeks. You are simply trying to make the habit a normal part of your life. Even on days when you lack motivation, you can still do the 2-minute version of your desired habit. This consistency reinforces your identity. You are not just doing a workout, you are becoming the type of person who doesn't miss workouts. Each small action is a vote for the person you want to become. Remember that the results of your habits are often delayed. In the early stages, your progress can be so slow that it feels invisible. This is what I call the plateau of latent potential, a period where your efforts are accumulating, but you haven't yet crossed the critical threshold to see a breakthrough. This is where most people give up. They expect linear progress and become discouraged when their hard work doesn't pay off right away. But your efforts are not wasted. They are being stored. Keep putting in the work, stay consistent, and eventually, you will see the remarkable power of your atomic habits unfold. If you found these tips helpful, don't forget to subscribe to Millionaire Health Habits for more inspiration and strategies to transform your life, one tiny habit at a time.